Coming face to face with a shark is enough to send us into a sheer state of panic and fright, with layers of piercing teeth, powerful bodies, and an attitude that demands not to be messed with. You and I are clearly no match for any wild shark, particularly great whites. Even then, the fearless among us still dive down, hoping to get up close and personal with these predators. Once sharks are introduced to a dive, nothing is routine anymore. This one abalone diver, a man who was diving for marine snails, should be buying himself a lottery ticket. While the man was scouting the coral and ocean floor, a massive great white was scouting him. You see, great whites hunt at the surface rather than deep down, which means that swimming humans can unintentionally fall into their dinner paths. It's because great whites are more active near the surface, where the water is warmer. Make no mistake, if the shark wanted this diver as a snack, he would have devoured him in seconds. Instead, he gave him a little bump on the head with its nose. Well, it was probably investigating to see if the diver was suitable prey. And then, once the human didn't move out of its path, the impact to the shark's nose, which is full of sensors called receptors, caused it to jerk its head upwards and swim out. That is one lucky dude. On this Discovery Channel mission, however, the crew wanted to lure in the sharks. And with 4 giant predators circling the boat, it was only a matter of time. They designed their cage with one of the 4 sides made of plexiglass, meaning that the diver, Brandon, would look like easy prey from a distance. At first, the great white sharks play it cool, until the star of the show enters. This 18-foot great white, with a taste for violence, shreds one of the floats of the cage. Taking out the other could mean that the cage would sink, and then, well, bye-bye Brandon. Thankfully for this diver, he lived to fight another day. Close calls while protected by cages are one thing, but unexpected visits on our friendly beaches are another. For those dipping their toes in on the shore, unless we're recreating Jaws, there's no issue. For surfers, on the other hand, who paddle out much further into deeper waters, that's when things get murky. From the shark's vantage point, underneath, a surfer paddling on a surfboard is easily mistaken for the shape of prey, a sea lion, for example. Thus, once in a while, the torpedo-shaped predators might issue what's known as an exploratory bite, to see if the prey is, in fact, prey. Since they don't have limbs with sensitive digits like hands or feet, the only way they can test the structure of something is to bite it. Generally, they'll swim away after an exploratory bite. A seriously close encounter happened to Australian pro surfer Mick Fanning at the J Bay Open in Jeffreys Bay in Eastern Cape, South Africa, an area home to 103 unprovoked shark attacks since 1905, according to sharkspotters.org. Of these attacks, 82.3% proved non-fatal, while the rest, well, they weren't pretty. While Fanning waited for his first wave of the final, a fin popped up behind him. It took until the last moment for him to notice the shark and try to paddle away. Alas, the shark was too violent, pushing Fanning off his board. Thankfully, with cameras watching every move, the siren sounded immediately and rescue boats sped in, and he remained mostly unharmed. We've seen plenty of cases of great whites smashing into cages, but only rarely do they manage to break in. Well, it happened off the coast of Mexico's Guadalupe Island back in 2016. It might look like the shark was an evil predator with an unstoppable desire for human meat, but that's actually far from the truth. As the videographer explained, quote, "When a great white shark lunges and bites something, it is temporarily blinded," end quote. This is because they roll their eyeballs back during an attack to prevent eye injuries. So this shark was simply confused when it lunged at the bait and accidentally hit the cage. And since they can't swim backwards either, because its pectoral fins cannot curve upwards, it had no choice but to thrust itself forward. As soon as the crew on the boat realized, they flung open the roof of the cage, allowing the panicked shark to swim out and flee on its own, while the diver emerged shaken. Miraculously, he was unharmed. We've seen sharks squeeze into cages, but how about hitting the bars with such force that it actually breaks them? These sturdy steel cages are made of a 25mm or 1-inch galvanized steel frame and are capable of withstanding a 1000 psi great white bite force. But with the momentum behind an 18-foot great white charge, they take one look at a cage and consider it child's play. In Guadalupe, Mexico again, while lunging at some bait, this shark managed to snap one of the bars in half. Speaking of subpar friends, how about these guys over in Donegal, Ireland, who pushed their buddy into the water as a prank? Sure, it's all fun and games until a giant basking shark comes within inches of him in the water. Thankfully, he hopped back into the boat in the nick of time.